YoungBoy had the city of New Orleans turned up last night, but not without major chaos. From shutting down Bourbon Street to police moving in heavy numbers. His second show might not even go down. Let's break down everything that happened leading up to this.
When NBA YoungBoy rolled into New Orleans for his MASA tour, nobody expected what was about to unfold. The Baton Rouge rapper brought chaos, controversy, and a level of security deployment the city hadn't seen in years for a concert. But to understand what happened in New Orleans, we need to start a few days earlier in Atlanta, where everything began to spiral out of control. On October 15th, NBA YoungBoy performed the first of two sold-out shows at State Farm Arena in Atlanta. The night started with what appeared to be a triumphant moment. Before thousands of screaming fans, YoungBoy was joined on stage by some serious officials. Georgia State Representative Inga Willis, Fulton County Commissioner Marvin Arrington, and Fulton County Probate Judge Kenya Johnson all came out to present him with what many believed was a key to the city of Atlanta. The presentation was supposed to honor his influence in hip-hop and his work on anti-gun violence initiatives. Videos of the moment immediately went viral, with fans celebrating what they thought was a major civic honor for their favorite artist. But here's where things got interesting. Right after receiving this apparent honor, YoungBoy did something that shocked a lot of people. He performed his 2022 diss track I Hate YoungBoy for the first time ever in a live setting. This wasn't just any song. It's a brutal diss track where he goes after multiple Atlanta artists including Lil Baby and Gucci Mane, and it contains harsh lyrics about Chicago rapper Lil Durk and his late friend King Von. The crowd went absolutely crazy, screaming every lyric back at him, even the lines disrespecting Atlanta's own hometown heroes. The backlash was swift and severe. People outside of YoungBoy's fan base were furious. How could Atlanta give this man a key to the city and then watch him perform a song disrespecting some of their most prominent artists? The mayor's Office of Film, Entertainment and Nightlife had to step in quickly to clarify. They released a statement making it clear that the city of Atlanta had nothing to do with the presentation. It wasn't actually a key to the city at all. The recognition came from Fulton County and State of Georgia representatives, not the city itself. The statement emphasized that Atlanta hasn't issued an actual key to the city in a very long time and currently doesn't even do that anymore. The last rapper to officially receive one was Ludacris way back in 2004, but the damage was done. The controversy was everywhere, and State Farm Arena made a decision. They canceled YoungBoy's second Atlanta show scheduled for October 18th, just days after the first one. No official explanation was given, but sources suggested it was tied to the outrage over the diss track performance and concerns about potential violence. Fans who had tickets were told they'd get automatic refunds if they bought through Ticketmaster. Here's where it gets really interesting though. Even though the show was canceled, YoungBoy's fans weren't having it. They showed up to State Farm Arena anyway and held their own concert outside the venue. Videos show hundreds of fans gathered, playing YoungBoy's music, rapping along and turning the parking lot into an impromptu party. It was a powerful display of loyalty that showed just how devoted his fan base is. This Atlanta situation wasn't an isolated incident. The MASA tour had already seen cancellations in other cities. Chicago's United Center canceled his September 24th show, reportedly due to concerns about violence tied to his ongoing feud with Chicago rapper Lil Durk. There were also cancellations in Detroit. The pattern was becoming clear. Wherever YoungBoy went, controversy and security concerns followed. To understand why these concerns are so serious, you need to know the backstory. The beef between NBA YoungBoy and Lil Durk goes back to November 2020, when Durk's close friend and collaborator King Von was shot and killed outside an Atlanta nightclub. The incident happened during an altercation between King Von's crew and associates of NBA YoungBoy, specifically Quando Rondo and Lil Tim. 6 people were shot that night, and 3 died, including Von. Lil Tim was initially charged with felony murder in Von's death, but prosecutors dropped the charges in August 2023, citing self-defense. The animosity only intensified from there. In February 2022, both Durk and YoungBoy released diss tracks on the same day. Durk dropped a HHHA, and just hours later, YoungBoy fired back with I Hate YoungBoy. That song is absolutely scathing. YoungBoy doesn't just go after Durk, he references King Von's death with lines about being mad about his dead homie. He disses Durk's fiancée India Royale, takes shots at Gucci Mane for working with Durk, goes after Lil Baby and his 4PF crew, mentions Boosie Badads, and even calls out Apple Music. It's one of the most confrontational diss tracks in recent hip-hop memory. And here's the kicker about the Atlanta performance. YoungBoy brought Lil Tim on stage with him when he performed I Hate YoungBoy for the first time. Lil Tim is the man who was charged in King Von's death, performing that song in Atlanta, the city where King Von died, with the man accused of killing him standing right there on stage, was seen by many as incredibly provocative and disrespectful. The situation gets even more complex when you learn what's happening with Lil Durk right now. In October 2024, Durk was arrested on federal murder-for-hire charges. Prosecutors allege that he put a bounty on Quando Rondo's life and orchestrated a hit in Los Angeles in August 2022. The attack at a gas station near the Beverly Center left Quando Rondo unharmed but killed his cousin Sabia Robinson. According to the indictment, Durk used coded language to communicate the bounty and funded members of his Only the Family collective to fly from Chicago to Los Angeles to carry out the hit. 5 other men were also charged in the conspiracy. Durk is currently awaiting trial and faces life in prison if convicted. His trial has been delayed to January 2026 due to the complex nature of the case. So, when NBA YoungBoy walks into cities performing a song that mocks Durk and references this whole deadly situation, authorities take it seriously. The fear isn't just about the music, it's about real-world violence that has already claimed lives and could claim more. Which brings us to New Orleans. Louisiana officials knew everything that had happened in Atlanta and Chicago. They were terrified that YoungBoy's 2 sold-out shows at the Smoothie King Center on October 19th and 20th would lead to violence. But here's where it gets complicated from a business and legal standpoint. According to New Orleans City Council President J.P. Morrell, the New Orleans Police Department reached out to ASM Global, the company that manages the Smoothie King Center, asking them to help fund the massive police presence that would be needed. The NOPD made it clear this wasn't a regular security situation. They told ASM Global that activating the department for these shows would require 400 to 450 officers on overtime for both nights. The police weren't asking for the concerts to be canceled, they were just asking for help covering the enormous costs. ASM Global declined to contribute. According to Morrell, when NOPD asked if they would cancel the concerts, ASM Global also declined that. But then ASM Global allegedly suggested that if NOPD sent a letter to the promoter forcing the cancellation, that would work, because then the promoter would sue the city instead of suing ASM Global. It was basically an attempt to shift liability away from the venue operator. This is important for promoters to understand. If city officials cancel a show, the promoter can potentially sue the city. That's leverage that promoters have, and it's something to be aware of if you're in the live music business. But here's why this situation was so controversial in New Orleans. The city is facing a massive budget crisis. A Louisiana legislative auditor report found that New Orleans spent a staggering $160 million more than it collected this year. Police overtime is a huge part of that deficit. The city has repeatedly blown past its budget for emergency personnel overtime. And now, for a private concert that would primarily benefit ASM Global and the promoters financially, the city was being asked to deploy over 400 officers at overtime rates. Council President Morrell was blunt about it. He said the activation would make the deficit worse, and the revenue generated from the concerts wouldn't even come close to covering the costs. He pointed out that the concerts really only benefit ASM Global financially, not the city's economy as a whole, but the shows were going forward regardless. The NOPD tried to minimize costs by using officers already working 12-hour shifts, though they acknowledged some deputies on 8-hour shifts might have to work 12 hours. The security deployment was massive. Walking beats, mounted units, bicycle patrols, tactical teams, drones, an armored vehicle, and light towers throughout downtown in the French Quarter. State, local, and federal partners all contributed resources. The Smoothie King Center also implemented an unprecedented no-bag policy, even banning small clear bags that are normally allowed to speed up security screenings. The first show on Sunday, October 19th went smoothly inside the venue. Both nights were sold out with 17,000 people each night. YoungBoy performed I Hate YoungBoy again. getting a huge reaction from the crowd. Fans reported it was an incredible show, high energy from start to finish. But what happened after the show is what really made headlines. Around midnight, NBA YoungBoy did something unexpected and frankly dangerous. He walked out onto Bourbon Street with just a small entourage and no real security detail. Within moments, dozens of fans recognized him and swarmed. People were screaming, recording on their phones, trying to touch him. The situation quickly became chaotic and potentially dangerous. Videos shared widely on social media show YoungBoy walking along Canal Street near the intersection with Bourbon, suddenly surrounded by the growing crowd. You can see the exact moment when New Orleans police officers realized what was happening and moved in. The officers quickly established what they called a protective corridor around him. In some video angles, you can actually see officers with their arms locked with YoungBoy's, rushing him past the Crystal Restaurant on Bourbon and around vehicle barricades onto Canal Street. According to some reports, YoungBoy initially refused to leave, which forced officers to physically carry him to his car. The scene briefly shut down parts of Canal Street as police worked to extract him from the crowd. The NOPD later released a statement clarifying that there was no criminal incident and no arrest. They explained that after the artist moved on foot near Canal and Bourbon, a crowd converged and officers established a protective corridor to escort him to a vehicle. He departed without further issue. The statement emphasized that Monday's second show would go on as scheduled, but the incident raised serious questions. Why would an artist who just performed in front of 17,000 people walk through Bourbon Street at midnight with minimal security? Was it spontaneous or planned? Either way, it demonstrated exactly why police were so concerned about these concerts. Some fans celebrated it on social media, saying it showed YoungBoy turning New Orleans into a movie and proving how much love he has in Louisiana. Others, including law enforcement and city officials, saw it as incredibly reckless. It put YoungBoy himself at risk, endangered the fans who might have been crushed in the crowd, and required an immediate police response that added to the city's costs. The second show on Monday went forward with the same massive security presence. This time there were no major incidents, though false reports of gunfire inside the arena briefly circulated on social media before NOPD confirmed nothing happened. Louisiana State Police were also active, arresting 5 people and seizing 4 ATVs, 2 dirt bikes, 1 motorcycle, and 3 firearms in the area around the concerts. The whole situation highlights massive tensions in the music industry right now. On one hand, NBA YoungBoy is one of the biggest streaming artists in the world. His fans are incredibly loyal, his shows sell out instantly, and he generates millions of dollars. Music executive Birdman recently predicted YoungBoy's live performance could become a billion-dollar enterprise within a few years. On the other hand, his concerts come with legitimate security concerns based on real-world violence, not just perception. Cities and venues are stuck in a difficult position. If they host the shows, they face potential violence and endurance security costs. If they cancel the shows, they face lawsuits from promoters and backlash from fans. Meanwhile, artists like YoungBoy are caught between their artistic expression, their beefs with other artists, and the real-world consequences that follow them everywhere. The New Orleans shows ultimately went off without major violence, which some see as vindication that the security measures worked. Others see it as proof that the measures were overkill in the first place. Fan reactions were split. Some attendees said they felt safe and appreciated the police presence. Others, like one fan named Ashton Thomas who attended both shows, called it overkill, saying everyone felt safe without needing all those police. What's undeniable is that NBA YoungBoy has become one of the most polarizing figures in hip-hop. His talent and streaming numbers are undeniable. His connection with fans, especially younger fans, is incredibly strong, but his willingness to perform songs that reference deadly violence, his ongoing beefs, and the chaos that seems to follow his tour have made him a complicated figure for the industry to deal with. The question going forward is whether this level of security will become the new normal for YoungBoy's concerts, and whether venues and cities will continue to host him given the costs and concerns. As the tour continues through the rest of October and into November with stops in Birmingham, Charlotte, Houston, Dallas, and eventually ending in Seattle, everyone will be watching to see if the pattern continues or if the successful New Orleans shows mark a turning point. What's clear is that when NBA YoungBoy comes to town, it's never just about the music anymore. It's about security deployments, budget concerns, social media chaos, and the complex intersection of hip-hop culture, street beefs, and real-world consequences. Love him or hate him, NBA YoungBoy has shown he's a force that cities and the music industry have to reckon with, one way or another.